Hi everyone, this is our weekly update. It's your third update and it's for the week of February 11th. This week you were asked to look at materials that covered different types of sources that you might use in the research process and how to find these sources. Your first assignment asked you, or one of the assignments asked you to look at a number of links to determine what type of source this was, how you knew it, and if you would use it. This is one of the key aspects of the research process because not only will you be expected to use and therefore know about and locate different types of sources in papers that you might write, knowing what different types of sources are will help you make good decisions about how you would utilize different types of resources within any project that you might be working on. In this way, this is an essential aspect of the research process. So in this assignment, the first link that you had took you to this article in The Atlantic. Overwhelmingly, people were able to correctly identify this as a popular press source. Many of you noted that it was written in a way that was maybe meant to entertain or to persuade an audience. In this way, it definitely offered a particular opinion or an argument. It came from a certain perspective. Some of you called this bias. I think that term can be problematic because it can be associated with misinformation. And this is not an article that presents misinformation, but it does present facts through a certain interpretation. So while the factual information is correct, you could take issue with the way it's interpreted or the choice to only use certain facts and not utilize other facts in the construction of a story. It's certainly written for a general audience. You know this through the type of language, the tone, and the style. And of course, the source itself is obviously a popular news magazine. So I asked if you would use this article in a research process or how you would use it. Many of you noted that it's the kind of source that you could use as a good starting point to an investigation. It could help you build connections between a topic you're interested in studying and current issues, or just to spark an idea for a new topic. Or it could help you gain a better understanding of, in general, how is the general population thinking about an issue? As well as it might reveal something new that you haven't thought about before. In addition, in this particular article, we saw that some of the information that was presented or cited talked about more scholarly studies, and you could use this article as a jumping point and go find those more scholarly studies to read and use in a paper. So you may cite this. It might be something you cited in an introduction to a paper to help you show the significance of the topic with a general audience. But it wouldn't be something you would cite in a literature review. And you wouldn't cite it if you were writing a paper where a professor asked you specifically to use scholarly sources. One of the reasons an article like this, even though it includes factual information and it provides links and information that allows you to assess where their information is coming from, it's not quite as high quality as a scholarly source. One of the reasons is that while it references past studies, it doesn't go into any specific detail about what these studies are, where they came from, what methods were used, how they collected their data, or how they did their analysis. And while there is an editor and fact checkers who should be working to ensure the truth of the claims that are being made, it's not subject to any kind of in-depth review process in the way that a scholarly article would be. The second link took you to a scholarly article. People were able to easily identify this as a scholarly article, which is great. One of the ways you know it is because it's obviously not written for a general audience, but rather is written for experts who are specialized in a topic of study. You know this in part because it's written using advanced language. It has a complex style to it. And rather than being written to entertain or even persuade, the purpose is to really add to our overall knowledge about and information on a specific topic. Studies like this, scholarly sources like this, take extensive time and resource commitment to construct. They offer you detailed descriptions of the studies themselves. They tell you what they did. The authors will tell you what they did, what methods they used to collect their data, how they conducted their analysis, and, a discussion of the results that they found. That's one of the key differences between a scholarly article and a popular press source, even one that's factually determined. Sources like this help to give credibility to the writer, in part because if you're writing about a specific topic, you build a sense of credibility when you know what other experts in the field are saying about that topic. Scholarly articles are the way that you find that out. It also helps to provide context and, again, a much deeper understanding of your topic in general. The third link took you here to a Wikipedia page. People were able to correctly identify this as a reference source. It's a reference source in part because it provides you with very broad background knowledge on a topic. So rather than giving you a very deep, in-depth, complex look at a topic, it gives you a very kind of shallow but broad general understanding. Even though most people said they wouldn't cite it, which is a good idea because most of your professors don't want you to cite Wikipedia, that doesn't mean you don't use a source like this in the research process. In fact, Wikipedia has actually research has shown that it is as accurate as any other encyclopedia that is out there. So while I know that for years high school teachers have been saying don't use Wikipedia, I use Wikipedia all the time, right? It's just that Wikipedia is a starting point, as all reference sources are, but not an end point. So other kinds of reference sources like textbooks, other encyclopedias, even dictionaries, they help to provide you that broad background, even if you don't end up citing them in your paper. Wikipedia or other kinds of reference sources can also be useful in just helping you to gain a better understanding of the keywords that you might use or subject areas that are related to your topic, as well as providing some citations that would allow you to do follow-up. So one of the key things is understanding how different resources function and what they provide to you as a researcher. Reference sources will give you this very broad and general understanding of a topic. It's a great place to start. You need to start somewhere, and that's the best place to begin. Popular resources usually narrow the scope a little bit more, but also can dig in a little bit deeper on a topic area. Trade journals, which you didn't have an example of in this assignment, are written for yet even more narrow audience, usually professionals working within a particular field. But they're digging a little bit more deeply into the topic area, writing about subjects, ideas, concepts, tools, technologies that really only people who have started to develop some specialized knowledge will understand or care about. And that brings us to scholarly journals. They usually cover a much, much narrower scope on a topic than, say, a reference resource. But that scope, what they lose in breadth, they make up for in depth. So they oftentimes give us a smaller picture of an issue, but a much more in-depth and complex picture of that. In addition to this assignment, you also had a group discussion that asked you to think about how you would find these different kinds of sources. The scavenger hunt. One of the key things to know about this kind of assignment, and maybe you picked up on this from reading about your peers' sort of suggestions for how to find sources, is there's no one way to find a resource. There's lots of different ways to go about looking for materials. That said, there are definitely better and worse ways to do it. These first two, and Google, I guess like Wikipedia, sometimes gets a bad rap, but sometimes Google is the best place to go. If I'm looking for very general information that would be open to everyone, the kind of stuff that might be included in popular press sources or even reference sources, Google can be a good place to go. That said, I'm not going to just go to Google and just type things in. I mean, I could do that. And maybe if I dig through things, I might start to find a good resource. But I can get even better material, even quicker, if I use some specialized search techniques. So if you didn't look over the website that was provided on how to use Google, you really should do that. It gives some really awesome ideas for how to narrow your search in a way that will give you the exact information you're looking for in a much quicker way. You might also, instead of just going to Google, look specifically for resources, things like popular press sources that you know are reliable and accurate. These can be other good places to look for this kind of information. For instance, something like Pew Research Center might be a good place to go if I'm looking for statistics. So just by way of example, this site.gov and student loan and student debt statistics, putting this into Google is going to narrow my search results to just government websites. The government is a huge collector of statistical information. It's highly reliable. And so I don't have to then wade through a bunch of crap in order to get to the stuff that's really going to give me what I want to know. So good techniques. If I'm writing a paper for a communication class and I'm told I need to use scholarly sources, I am not going to start at Google. I am always going to start at the BSU library, and I'm always going to start with the database Communication and Mass Media Complete. It is the most narrow and direct place I can go to try to find high quality information. If I can't find what I'm looking for there, then it's okay to broaden my search out to look at other databases or to maybe even go to Google Scholar. But these would always be after I've already tried to look for the information here. Keywords become essential in finding that information. If I'm interested in finding out this information about Pepsi's official response, I'm going to go to Pepsi. If I want to know what somebody has to say directly about something, I'm going to go to that person and ask them. And that's the same thing. So at various points in the research process, you may need to find primary sources straight from someone's mouth, straight from something that you're looking for. Rather than finding an article about Pepsi's response, I'm just going to go to Pepsi's website and find it there. If many of you noted this is really important. Being able to find a source when you have the citation and find it quickly. Will save you a ton of time in the research process. As you start to look for your own sources, scholarly sources when you're writing papers, you'll want to mine the sources that other articles are using. So going to the BSU library and looking for the journal and then finding the issue and volume and the year can be a useful way to do that. Probably the fastest way to do that.